All right, we're going to take a look at a number of ways to add fractions. Okay, so what we have here are some very basic fractions that equations that we want to add up. Now, the important thing to remember in fractions is that our denominators always stay the same. We do not change the denominators. So in other words, we do not add the denominators. The only things that we do add are the numerators. So in this case, this equation, the typical mistake would be that students would add whole sections. So they would say, oh, well, this must be 3/8. That is in fact incorrect. Okay, we do not add the denominators, they stay the same. What we would say is that 1 plus 2 equals 3, so now that we have 3/4. The same thing goes on for our second question here. 1/8 plus 5/8, well, that simply means that it is 6/8. Down here, we have another situation. We have 4/6 plus 2/6. Well, that ends up equaling 6/6. And since we already know that when it's 6/6, it's the same as saying 1 whole. So you could just write the number 1. In this case, though, we're ending up with a little bit more. We end up with actually an improper fraction, which is 5/4. Or we could also write it as 1 1/4, because that's what's remaining. You have one whole number, 4/4, plus an additional 1/4, so it's 1 1/4. Same thing can be said here. 5 plus 4 is 9/7, which also equals 1 2/7 left over. You could pull 7/7 out of there once to give you 1 whole, and then you have 2 left over. Okay, so far what we've done is we just looked at equations that already had common denominators. But it's important to remember that whenever you are adding two or more fractions, the denominators must be the same. They have to be common. They have to be the same. So what we need to do is we need to convert each of these and find a number that will be the lowest common multiple between 4 and 3. So if we look down here, we had 3 and we had 4. We'd simply say, well, if we skip count and we do multiples, we can simply say 3, 6, 9, 12, and here we would have 4, 8, 12, 16. And as you can see, the first multiple that comes up for both of them that is the same is 12. So what we have to do is we have to multiply the denominator in order to get it to 12. And in this case, we'd have to multiply it by 4. And what we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. And the same thing goes here. We have to multiply the denominator, but in this case, in order to get 4 to 12, we have to multiply it by 3. The same thing here, and we will end up with our new fractions that we can successfully add together. So when we multiply 4 times 1, we get 4/12, plus, well, 1 times 3 is 3/12, and now we can just simply add those numbers across. 4 plus 3 is 7/12. Now let's take a look at one more just for another example. We have 1/2 plus 2/8. So knowing what we know, we have to first find our lowest common multiple so that we can make our two denominators the same. In this case, you've got 2 and 8. So if we start off here with a 2 and an 8 and we're looking for common multiples, all we have to do is skip count. So skip counting by 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. And you know what? I can actually stop right here because I've got 8 and I've got 8. And 8 is a multiple of 8 because 8 is 8 times 1. It's the exact same thing. So since I know that, I don't even have to change this one. I can actually leave it as is. The only one that I actually have to change is this one. and I have to multiply the number of multiples that it takes in order for me to get to 8 is 4. In other words, the number of skip counts I have to take is 4. All right, well, let's do this. 4 times 1, 4 times 2. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to rewrite this equation down below so that we can see it even better. And I'm going to have 4 over 8, and I'm going to be adding that to 2 over 8. And then I can simply say that it is 6 over 8. Now, just one little feature that we're going to add in here, and we'll be going into this in another lesson. But we have our fraction left off here as 6 over 8. Now, what we can do is we can use our divisibility rules, and we can say, hey, you know what? We can reduce that. In other words, we can make it smaller. And that way, sometimes it's easier to work with. And a lot of math teachers are going to ask you to do this anyway. So we can simply say that, hey, we know the divisibility rule of 2 says that any even number will divide evenly. So if we look at the top number, we say, yes, 2 will definitely divide into 6, and 8 will definitely divide by 2. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just say 6 divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2, and what we're going to get is we're going to get 3 over 4. And so what we can say is that 3 over 4 is actually equal to 6 over 8.